Welcome to another installment. This is Hero of Ages. We're doing part 2, the second part of part 2, because we did the first part of part 2 yesterday. So this is the second part of part 2, and none of my questions have really been answered or changed. I still have the same questions, and more of them are getting raised, and more of my theories are not coming to fruition. More of my theories are just hanging out there. Sanderson is interesting this chapter, or this part. Because I feel like he's not answering any of the questions. He was trying to give us an emotional moment. I don't think emotional moments are Sanderson's best form of writing. I think he's actually good at action sequences. I think he's good at, he's good at giving you information slow enough in the beginning that you're still intrigued, or like at a good enough pace at the beginning that you're intrigued, and then all at the end where it's like everything comes together. I think right now I'm reading Sanderson for the moment to get that like Sanderlanche, to figure out all the answers, because I'm so curious about things. So he really does a really good job of piquing your curiosity and making you read. I don't think he does emotional moments incredibly well. Because they had this moment with Vin and Ellen at the end, which is like a dancing moment. They dance for the first time, and it was good, but it was like, this could have been like better written. But it was still really good. It was still really beautiful. And Sanderson has talked about this all the time, that he doesn't really approach writing like to impress the audience. He approaches writing as like a window to the world, which I think is actually a really good form of writing. But there was one thing that he kept doing in this section that kind of annoyed me. When he was talking with Yeoman, when Ellen was talking with Yeoman, I could not believe how many times Yeoman kept saying Ellen Venture, the name Ellen Venture. And I was like, it is actually comedic right now. Like, is Brandon Sanderson doing this as a joke? That was the only part that I was reading, and I was like, as a editor who's worked in editorial for a few years in my life, and who edited books like this, or not like this, but different. I edited books where the people are trying to write fiction and all sorts of nonfiction and stuff like that. That was the one thing that I just found hilarious. I was like, Brandon Sanderson almost seems to be doing this as like a joke to get back at people who talk about him writing people's name. He writes people's names in dialogue all the time. It's the smallest little things. But I was reading that. I was by the beach yesterday reading that, and I was like, come on, Yeoman, stop saying the name Ellen Venture. It's ridiculous. But that's my only qualm right now. It's an entertaining book. I want it to move faster. But then again, I did just come from Well of Ages, where it didn't move at all until like the last little bit, and you didn't really get any other answers. So I'm guessing that's kind of how Sanderson operates, where you just get the Sanderlanche at the end, with a few of your questions answered here and there, and he answers a few and raises more. But the plot has been progressing well. I think this is probably, the most intriguing book. I think the first one is probably the most intriguing at this point. And after like the first 100 or 200 pages, the second book is really interesting, but it just, I think, moves slower until you get to the end. And the third one, it's kind of all over the place. It's like you're on a journey. So I think, let me turn on my ISO again. I think it's interesting because they're not in one spot the whole time, which I almost kind of missed that. I almost just missed being in Luthadel and knowing that city. But it's world expansion. I think that's what Sanderson is probably best at. I think that's his best form of writing, or best form as a writer, is he is a really good world builder. He knows how to build world and keep you intrigued into that world, revealing certain things and concealing certain things, giving you just the right amount of details so that like you want to keep reading. I think that's his best attribute. And so this part, I don't really think a lot of my questions are that answered. It just is a continuation of yesterday, where I'm like confused by a lot of things, but he moves the plot along pretty well. So I'm excited to keep reading and get through like the next part, because like this is one of the examples. Like, I know that he has to write a full book, but I don't think we're gonna get what's in the cache until maybe the end of the next part, or the end of the part after that. And that's like just annoying to me. I'm like, I want to know what's in there. So he's keeping me intrigued in writing, and he knows how to keep the reader intrigued because he's keeping these things back from you. But it's like they went to this ball. Now they're going to go to this other ball in the following week. But I'm sure the next whole part is going to be that week leading up to that. And then they go to the ball at the whatever, I forgot what it was exactly called, but at the place where the cache was underneath. They're going to go to the cache and they're going to find out something there. But it also makes me frustrated because there's like a moment where Ellen talks to Yeoman about he doesn't care about anything that's down there. He doesn't care about the ADM, the reserves. He just cares about what the information is down there. That was foolish of Ellen to do that, because now I feel like Yeoman's going to sabotage this and they're not going to know what's down there. But maybe, I don't know if you can sabotage like a massive steel plate or something like that. So there's a bunch of things that I'm just like frustrated at in this part. I found myself when I was reading, I was like, I just want to know what's there. And I feel like I have to not wade through a bunch of this stuff, but like even I promise I'm not like frustrated or annoyed at Brandon Sanderson's writing, but I'm like, I want more answers. I haven't gotten more answers because I'm not at the Sanderlanche yet, but I'm just waiting for the Sanderlanche. So it's like even the part with Tensoon, like he finally escaped at the end of part 2. Like I'm glad about that, but as a reader, I want Tensoon in immediately. His part, I think, should have been resolved in part 1. And then he comes back into the story in part 2. Now, I don't know the story, so maybe there's like a key importance for everything that he was telling there. But I'm like, he could have wrapped that story up quicker or synthesized the parts to make them a little longer and just kept it all in part 1. So, I don't know. Because part 1 could have been like Tensoon's part. Part 2 could have been like Spook's part. The back and forth, because yeah, it's really interesting. Because I do like books that do this, that go back and forth. My favorite book of all time is the Poisonwood Bible, and it goes back and forth with all these perspectives in the story, and that's my favorite book of all time. And this one does the same thing too. But I find myself, as soon as I finish like a Spook section, I was like, I want more Spook. I want more information on Spook. As soon as I finish an Ellen section, I'm like, wait, let me stay there. I don't want to go to another character yet. As soon as I get to a Tensoon section, I was like, I want to stay in that section. Same thing with Sazit. All these different people, I want to stay with them. And then it moves me to another part. And then as soon as I read that, I finish that, and I'm like, oh no, I want to stay with them. And then I go to another person. So it's just back and forth. It's like silly of me, but I just want answers. And I feel like I haven't got any answers. Or maybe maybe that's a lie. We'll talk about some of the answers that I have maybe gotten. But I feel like in previous books, I was spoon-fed a little bit better than this one. But apparently the end of this book is phenomenal, and everyone raves about how much all their questions are answered. So I'm excited for the end of this book. But weirdly, everyone is talking about how this is the best written book. And I think it's the best, the most interesting plot-wise. But I find myself longing for answers more in this book than I did in the previous two. And I feel like I'm not being given certain answers. And that might just be chalked up to me being more intrigued in Brandon Sanderson's writing right now, but I don't know. But chapter 27, let's go through this. Let's speed through this. What time is it? Okay, it's chapter 27. This is where Vin talks to the informant and is followed by probably the Mist Spirit. And this is another thing. He like brings up more questions and then he doesn't answer these or like, talk about these because they have to figure this stuff out by themselves. So it's interesting. You're like journeying along with the characters trying to figure out the answers, but just give me a bone every once in a while. And I feel like he hasn't given me a bone yet. So she's talking about the mist here. And it says, there's one section where it says, once the mist cloak had been useful in making guards or thieves turn away at her approach. However, like the era of the friendly mist, that time had passed. So instead, she wore only a black shirt and trousers. Which I kind of like. I don't love mist cloaks all that much. I think they're like gaudy and annoying. So I kind of like her just going in black shirts and a trouser. But there's a weird conundrum here in the book between the friendly mist and the non-friendly mist. They're in the non-friendly mist era, but there still is a friendly mist. So I'm curious what the difference between the two are, and potentially if the ash is actually the thing that causes the unfriendly mist. And the more ash there is, the more unfriendly the mist is. Because maybe if you're ash, why would you want or if you're the mist, why would you continually want the ash to keep falling on you? Maybe you're just annoyed by it, and so you get grumpy, and you haven't had like, a Snickers bar. So I think there's still something connected with that, but I just don't know the good mist versus the bad mist. I think there's like a dichotomy and a conundrum between the two, but I just don't know what is what yet. So one seems to be like attracted to Vin and the other seems to be repelling Vin. But then she goes to this elderly man who's the informant. And this guy's kind of cool. And you kind of learn that Set is actually a poet, which is really cool. I kind of love that. And this guy, the informant, tells her that, the yeoman is actually a good leader. He restores order. Set he's better than Set. But then you kind of meet him later in the part, and I'm a bit frustrated and annoyed at him. He's definitely of the old Lord Ruler system, so he's annoying. But then at the end of this whole conversation, Vin shot through ash and mist. Again, it always pairs those things up. She's shooting through ash and mist. Even her tight clothing flapped slightly from the wind. She quickly pulled herself down to a rooftop and crouched. The other Allomancer must have stopped burning his metals, but why would he do that? Did he know she could pierce copper clouds? If he did, then why had he followed her so recklessly? Vin felt a chill. There was something else that gave Allomantic pulses in the night. The mist spirit. She hadn't seen it in over a year. The fact that during her last encounter with it, it had nearly killed Elend, only to restore him by making him mistborn. And she says that it wasn't Ruin's presence because she knows what Ruin's presence is like. So this mist spirit seems like it's going to be the answer for a lot of these things, but I don't know. This is like this mist spirit represents the good mist, and the Ruin represents the bad mist. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any answers, and we're going to find answers. And I guarantee you in like 3 parts, when I actually get all the answers, I'm going to be so happy and satisfied. But right now, I'm just discontent. I want to just keep reading and getting to new parts, which is one of Sanderson's best attributes as a writer. Like again, I talked about this before, but the intrigue that he creates, and he doesn't answer your questions, so he wants you to keep reading. And even though I think this part was a little slow, I still think I'm very intrigued, and I still want to go down to the beach and read, even though it's a cloudy day and there's a hurricane coming. That's beside the point. Chapter 28. This is just a conversation between Vin and Elend. And again, some of my notes are just small things because I feel like this is just a continuation of the thing that I did yesterday, or the discussion that I had yesterday, where I feel like my questions just aren't getting answered and I'm just more confused about things. But there's good, like, again, I think this was an emotional pull, this second part, for these chapters, and I think it was okay, but that's one of my favorite attributes as some of my favorite writers. The reason why I really love good writers is because they do emotional moments really well, and Sanderson does them okay. Like, the dancing scene is one, and this scene is one. When they're talking about trust, it just seems a bit wooden to me. Like, this is the conversation, which is a really good conversation because they have to definitely trust each other. But it says, because I realized that you trusted me, Ben said. Trust me as nobody has ever before. On that night when I fought Zane, I decided to give my trust to you. This force that's destroying the world, we have something it never can understand. I don't necessarily need your help. I need your trust, your hope. It's something I've never had myself. I rely on yours. Ellen nodded slowly. You have it. And then it says, Ellen smiled. Oh, come on. You have to admit that you're unusual, Vin. You're some strange mixture of a noblewoman, a street urchin, and a cat, which is kind of funny. Plus, you've managed in our short 3 years together to kill not only my god, but my father, my brother, and my fiance. It's kind of like a homicidal tat trick. It's a strange foundation for a real relationship, wouldn't you say? So this is what I'm talking about. In the beginning, that section is wooden. Like, I think the whole conversation they're having with trust is just like regurgitated cliche. And then Sanderson gets good at the second parts of these things. Like when he gets past like some of the cliche and he starts writing more originally, that second part was lovely. So I just want him to delete the first part because that's more that's better writing, where he like incorporates comedy. And Sanderson's not like the funniest, most comedic writer, but he does have good moments, and I kind of want him to incorporate that more. And this is a really good one too. But yeah, I just want him to give me answers. I think I'm annoyed at him for not giving me answers right now. Well, maybe I woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. And then they go to this. So the end of this part, they realize they need to go to this ball, but Vin is like, crap, I don't have a gown, and it's a big bummer, but still really interesting. It's kind of like we're back in the first book a little bit with them going to these balls, like Vin getting ready for them, and this is some of the interesting part too, in that like that section was interesting. I guess because it's so out of the ordinary, and maybe this is a good section. This is a good part of Brandon Sanderson's writing, I think. I think he's trying to get back to book one a little bit with like the balls that they were going to, because that was like weirdly a fun part to read. But this part, I was like, this seems like unorthodox. This seems like this isn't something that they should be doing. That's an aspect that I kind of like. Like when a writer takes an unexpected turn, like they're in the middle of like the world like ruining right now, ruining. And they're going to a ball. I'm like, when I was reading, I was like, oh yeah, I got to read a ball section again. But then I started reading it. I was like, actually, this is kind of nice. This is kind of lovely because it's a very unexpected turn for Sanderson. And I want him to do that more. Like after I finished the ball section, I was like, even though he didn't really get answers, it moved the plot along a little bit, but it was unexpected. And it caused me to go, that was actually a really interesting bit of writing that he did there. So I wanted to do more of that. Give me more unexpected turns. And I think he's doing that pretty well. I think he's actually one of his best attributes, again, as a writer, is the unexpected things that he does. And like how he keeps you intrigued. I feel a sneeze coming on. Is it going to come? I think it went away. Or it's going away. Oh. Chapter 29. This is when Sazid goes to Urto. I don't know how to say that. Someone give me a pronunciation guide in the comments. Chapter 29, he goes and they're looking through this whole thing, and they actually end up going down to the Canton Inquisition. They see Spook, which Spook seems strange, and they actually go down to this thing, and it's just like Sazid. So there's an interesting part in this whole section of Sazid is talking to the citizen, and they essentially think that everyone is like, oh, let's just take them over with force. Let's kill him. And Sazid is like, that wouldn't work. And Sazid is damaged and he's broken right now, but he's still incredibly wise. And this is one of the more interesting things about this whole part, is that Urtau seems like it is. They mention this in the book in a joking way. It seems like a utopia. It seems like what the city that Kelsier actually did want. Like, and as much as Spook is being guided by Kelsier, and he's like, oh, and the spirit Kelsier is saying, no, this isn't what I want. Go get revenge. I think Urtau is exactly what Kelsier wanted. And so it's interesting to see that, because like their leadership, if you kill their leader, that's going to just firm up their resolve. So I think one of the things that I'm most intrigued about in this part is just to see what becomes of this city and how the plot moves within the city. Because right now, if they kill the citizen, someone's going to step up, and they could probably kill this army this small little army that Sazid brought. So this seems like an important bastion, and it's interesting because he's pitting these two cities against each other. One is totally going in Kelsier's way, and one is totally going in the opposite direction, back to the Lord Ruler. And how these cities respond and fight, I'm curious. I actually think that Urtau is going to fight back better than Fadro City. But Fadro has a ton of resources. And Urtau didn't find the cache yet. And so they actually go down to the cache and they realize this is where there's a ton of water, which is really interesting. They're going to probably need that water. That seems like, Chekhov's smoking gun. They're going to need this water for something. Not just drinking. I feel like it's going to be something else. Maybe it is just a place where they can store water, a reserve. But I feel like there's going to be something else there. Maybe they're going to reflood the tunnels or something like that. Or reflood the channels. I don't know. This city seemed cool, though. It seemed like a Venice kind of city. Chapter 30. Vin and Ellen go to the vault. And we just get a little bit of a deep dive there. The epigraph in this section says, originally, men assumed that Reshek's persecution of the terrorist religion came from hatred. Yet now that we know Reshek was himself a terroristman, his destruction of that religion seems odd. I suspect it has something to do with the prophecies about the Hero of Ages. Reshek knew that the preservation's power would eventually return to the Well of Ascension. If the terrorist religion had been allowed to survive, perhaps someday the person would find their way to the well and take up the power, then use it to defeat Reshek and overthrow the empire. So he obscured knowledge of the hero and what he was supposed to do, hoping to keep the secret of the well to himself. Maybe? Like, these seem definitive, but at the same time, I'm like, is this misguided, and is this Azid writing these things? And does Reshek know that the well... I don't know. Does he know, like, Azid... I keep thinking Azid is going to take the power in the Well of Ascension. I don't know why I am so convinced of that. I don't know. I just can't escape the feeling that Vin is not the hero of ages. Maybe she just has to become the hero of ages again. Maybe she's going to take the power that's in the Well of Ascension. But how does the Well of Ascension fill up? Seems like it fills up by someone dying. The Lord Ruler. Unless the Lord Ruler... It seemed like the Lord Ruler was waiting for it to fill up again. Maybe it takes 1,000 years for it to fill up, and they just killed the Lord Ruler at the wrong time. And that's why he was laughing when they died. He was like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Maybe? I don't know. But they go to this ball. And they try to, like... Vin tries to intimidate some of these women. And again, this is like an unexpected point in the book. So I was like, sitting here going like, I don't care that much for a ball because I just want the information. I just want them to get into the cash, like lay siege to the city. Like Sanderson, okay, this is what I think Sanderson is trying to do, which sometimes annoys me, but I'm like, oh, it's actually interesting because I trust Sanderson at this point. So like I'm in this battle because I don't know Sanderson's work exactly. And so I know that there's going to be payoff later. But at the moment, I'm like caught between I know that there's payoff and I know that I trust him. But at the same point, I know that he's building things up to be a longer book. And I'm like, no, I just want answers. So this section, it's like the cash is there. And it feels like he's building these things up. So the siege is going to take place. Like we're going to sit and have to wait to see what's in the cash. And we're going to have to wait till they take over the city. And it's probably going to be at the end of this book or something like that. So he's building things up to be longer. But you know, you have to do that because that's like part of plotting. But at the same point, I'm like, I just want answers. I think I'm just frustrated in this part because I just want to know what the answers are. And some of these chapters just don't have a ton of like, they don't move the plot forward that much, which is fine. It's fine. I got to just tell myself it's fine because that's what you do with character writing. Who cares about plot? You just write good characters. And maybe that's This is Brandon Sanderson transitioning a bit to being more of a character writer. But my only complaint so far, the chapter 30. So chapter 30 doesn't have a ton of stuff in there, to be honest. Chapter 31 is a more interesting chapter, where this is the epigraph in this one too. Reshek wore both black and white. I think he wanted to show that he was a duality, preservation and ruin. That this was a lie. After all, he had touched only one of the powers, and in a very small way at that. The preservation, they keep mentioning this, and they mention this in the next epigraph. That seems like, to me, the Goodness Spirit. They're going to call the Goodness Spirit preservation. But I don't know. So Reshek, or not Reshek, Sazid goes into this place, and he wants to read the words of the inscription. And I want to just read this whole thing too, because I want to sit and just process this myself. It says this: the plan is simple. When the power returns to the well, I will take it and make certain the things that makes certain the thing remains trapped. And still I worry. It has proven far more clever than I had assumed, infecting my thoughts, making me see and feel things I do not wish. It is so subtle, so careful. I cannot see how it could cause my death, but still I worry. If I am dead, these caches will provide some measure of protection for my people. I fear what is coming, what might be. If you read this now, and I am gone, then I fear for you. Still, I will try to leave what help I can, which is crazy. There are metals of allomancy which I have shared with none. If you are a priest of mine working this cavern and reading these words, know that you will incur my wrath if you share this knowledge. However, if it is true that the force has returned and I am unable to deal with it, then perhaps knowledge of Electrum will give you some aid. My researchers have discovered that mixing an alloy of 45% gold and 55% silver creates a new elementic metal. Burning it will not give you the power of adium, but it will provide help against those who themselves burn it. So we get a little bit of Electrum there. And this is just interesting because, again, the Lord Ruler, not all that evil. He was actually seeking to help people. And I like that he is like, if you're reading this and you dispel these secrets, I fear for you. He says, if you read this now and I'm gone, then I fear for you. You will incur my wrath if you share this knowledge. You don't want to get on his dark side or his bad side. So I am just curious what the last inscription is going to be. I feel like it might be adium. Don't know if it's adium. I feel like it might be something else. I feel like it might just all be for naught. It seems like Yeoman has the adium. But what good is adium really anymore? I feel like adium's lost its magic. Like it's not that significantly important. Maybe I'm ridiculous by saying that. I don't know. Then another section in this, which was really interesting. Spook being able to kind of like take Sazid down a few notches is interesting. Well, asked Spook, aren't you going to preach a religion to me? I don't do that anymore, Sazid said quietly. Oh, Spook said, why not? Sazid shook his head. I find it hard to preach to others that which has offered me no solace. I am looking through them, trying to discover which, if any, are right and true. Once I have that knowledge, I will be happy to share with you any that seem most likely to contain truth. For now, however, I believe none of them, and therefore will preach none of them. Surprisingly, Spook didn't argue. But Sazid had found it frustrating that his friends, people for the most part were determined atheists, would grow so offended when he threatened to join them in their lack of belief. Yet Spook didn't offer any arguments. It makes sense, the young man said eventually. Those religions aren't true after all. Kelsier is the one who watches over us, not those other gods. So he believes in the religion of Kelsier. But then he says something about like Tyndall. Like he doesn't believe these because Tyndall essentially was like, didn't believe these. And Sazid kind of has like a moment of, says Sazid was impressed. He looked across the waters for the time, contemplating what Spook had said. Then pulled out the next religion in his portfolio and began to consider it. The sooner he got through them, the sooner he could hopefully find the truth. So it's just interesting that Spook, Spook is the one that is helping Sazid. One of the last people I expected, but I guess they're both going through pain and frustration now. They're both dealing with it in probably unhealthy ways. But that was kind of fun. That was kind of good. Again, I think in this section he's trying to write more emotional sections, more emotional parts. And he's succeeding in some ways, not in others. Chapter 32. They actually are at this ball and they're talking with Yeoman. And Yeoman is 100% of the old order. And my note in this is when he says, Yeoman shook his head. You seem more reasonable than I would have thought, Ellen Venture. And he just kept saying his full name. And that got me so annoyed. I'm like, dude, stop saying his name. No one does that in real life. But maybe someone does. But in this section, their conversation just didn't go well. And I think Ellen made a few mistakes. Did not act like an emperor. He acted like his old self, which is interesting because I actually thought that was good in some ways. He was trying to debate philosophy, and Ellen. This seemed like the Good Will Hunting scene when they were debating certain things in that bar, and Ellen was like, he comes up to him and he's like, "Oh yeah, you read that on this page and this and here." He's like, "Don't quote that to me. Quote this to me." So that was really funny, but Ellen was trying to act more like his old self. I think in this, I think maybe he had like flashbacks because he was at this ball and he's like, "Oh, this is who I actually am, this researcher." But I wish he acted more like the emperor here, because I feel like it didn't work very well with Yeoman. Yeoman was just so mad at him, so frustrated at him. He said he was a hypocrite, which weirdly is true, but not. We like know the full story behind it because, Ellen has struggled with this. We know who Ellen is. We know his character. We know he like begrudgingly took this role as emperor, even though he seemed to fall into it well and he's doing it very well. But his government structure didn't work. And I think actually this is a better government structure for the people right now. They don't need total, like you can't change something from what it was to just total democracy. That's not going to work. I feel like these half steps to get to democracy is a better way to do things. But then they have this little dance at the end. It was cute. Had some good moments. And I like that Ellen brings out a book. Like there were some fun little things here. But at the end of this, Vin nodded. "I wonder if he's found the storage cavern." "He has," Ellen said. "I'm sure of it. I got a reaction out of him when I mentioned it." "That still shouldn't stop us," Vin said, smiling. "We go to his ball, sneak into the cavern, find out what the Lord Ruler left there, and then decide what to do about the siege and the city based on that." This made me annoyed, and maybe this isn't going to come back, but it made me annoyed that Ellen was actually the one that revealed that they know about this cache and they need to know what's in there, because it feels like Yeoman is just going to destroy it. And then that's going to be annoying because it's going to delay my understanding of what is actually in there. Maybe Yeoman takes this inscription and he moves it somewhere, and we have to go again, and they're going to get to this cache and they're going to realize nothing's down there, and I'm going to just have to sit and wait for answers more. I think, I promise I'm not grumpy. I just want answers, and I feel like he has not given me some answers. I'm just sitting and waiting for him to just feed me a bone. And this whole part, it's just been building up more and more questions in my mind, which I think Sanderson is good at. But again, the other books, like Mistborn, was a good balance between that. Like you learn certain things and then you have more questions. For this book right now, it just feels like he's building everything up. Like we're just climbing the ladder. Like there's no little downfalls. We're like, "Oh, that was fun because that was a good little bit of information he gave us." We're just climbing. And so I think this fall is going to be greater because the Sanderlanche is going to be greater because I have so many more questions. And I honestly, this could be part of Sanderson's really good writing style. And maybe I just need to come to expect this, in that the whole thing we're climbing, and then at the end it's one great big Sanderlanche and all your questions are answered and it's super satisfying. I have a feeling that I'll be super satisfied at the end of this book. But right now I am just annoyed. I just want more answers, and I feel like I haven't got anything. And I'm like, maybe a third of the way through this book. Yeah, about a third of the way through this book, and I haven't gotten anything. Maybe that's too early to ask for answered questions. But that's it. Chapter 33. Hemalurgy is of ruin. It destroys. By taking abilities from one person and giving them to another, and reducing amounts, some power is lost, in line with ruin's own appointed purpose. Breaking down the universe into smaller and smaller pieces, Hemalurgy gives great gifts, but at a high cost. That's definitely what's happening with Spook. I'm curious if he's going to realize that, and he's going to try to do this more, and he's going to try to become like a sword point Steel Inquisitor. He's going to have all these sword points broken off of him, and he's going to have all these powers. Maybe he inadvertently is going to see this and just want to keep doing this. But he has a pewter burner and a tin eye, which is really interesting. So, chapter 33, all that happens is maybe this is the bone that I get. The bone for the dog. Tensoon gets out, which is great. You know, Kanpar, Tensoon said, I learned a few important things while wearing these bones years ago. Kanpar gestured again. The guards raised their weapon. It's something I had never paused to consider, Tensoon said. Humans, if you think about it, simply aren't built for speed. Dogs, however, are. The hammers fell. Tensoon leapt forward. I like that. That was a cool ending. And it says, as soon as he reached the crowd, Tensoon jumped once more. Vin had required him to be able to leap incredible heights. And he'd practiced many different muscle structures. This jump wouldn't have impressed Vin, but it was more than enough to let him clear the watching Kandra. Or Vin, Tensoon no longer had the blessing of potency he'd stolen from Morsur, but it was more than enough to let him clear the watching Kandra. Some cried out, and he landed in a pocket of open space, then leaped again toward the open cavern. So Tensoon doesn't have the blessing of potency anymore. I don't think he's going to be able to get it. I don't know. Maybe he's going to go back to the bones of Tensoon or something like that, or Sewer and be able to steal it again. But it seems like the trust Warren took it, and he doesn't have it back. So he's going to be like Tensoon that we knew in the books prior, but he's going to be like less powerful. So I'm pumped to see them have a reuniting. And maybe he's going to go to Luthadel and like seek out where Vin is, and he's going to go immediately to Fadro to like have a beautiful reuniting thing there. So that's what I'm excited for. I'm excited to see if that actually happens. That's all I got for my thoughts here. This is a short video. I think I just want to keep reading. I just want to keep getting into this book and figuring out some answers for my questions. I'm going to read today. Hopefully another video comes out tomorrow. And that's what we'll keep doing. We'll keep trucking along. I just need my questions answered. I don't have any more theories on these things. I just want to figure out what is going on in this story. There are too many questions, too many things circulating in my brain. So that's all I got for today. I'll see you guys probably tomorrow morning. We'll see. Maybe earlier. I'm not gonna do two a day, but maybe, yeah. Hopefully I'll have more time to read today, and I'll just be able to speed through some of this stuff. But yeah, that's all I got. Until next time, I'll see you guys in the next one.